father signed a Nash franchise back in 1945. And this is while the war was on, in fact. And he signed the Nash franchise, and of course there was no cars being built at that time. But he had the franchise and got everything set. I come home from the Army in December 27th of 1945, and about 2 weeks later we got our first new car. And we started in selling cars and started a long line of being an American motor dealer. Was very pleased, very happy. We appreciated Nash because they were a wonderful company to get along with. Back in those days, people had one franchise. It wasn't like today. If you had Nash, you couldn't have Chevrolet with it. You couldn't have another franchise. That's the franchise you had. But each one of these cars each one of them has been selected for a particular thing about it. This is a 6-cylinder here, for instance. This one here is a V8. It's called a DPL, a 2-door hardtop. And as you go along, each one of these, it sounds funny to say this, but each one of them has got a different thing, a different reason. There's a 53 2-door hardtop down there. There's a 1948, but we have a 47 up in the front. This one here, we got it out here because it's got the different, along the sides of it, the trim of it's different, and on the inside of it, in the engine compartment, they put a later model in it, so it makes it different. Now, this one here is a 53. Here it says Rambler Country Club. But looky here. See that emblem there? Farina. Now, you know what Farina does?
Body maker?
He's a designer.
Okay.
For instance, Cadillac. A lot of Cadillacs, the Elante and all of those. Farina. American Motors went ahead and hired Farina long before any of this happened. This hood emblem on there is what they call a pettigrew. This is something today that there's a lot of people that are looking for this. But this is a genuine pettigrew. And how she folds her arms and how the wings come makes a big difference. There's about 7 or 8 of these made.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, this is all gives us, being this car is all 100% original, this gives us an idea of exactly what we're looking for. And when we go through that big pile of stuff in there, when we got something, we can identify it with one of these cars, what we're talking about. This emblem here, this Nash emblem. This, if we take it off of here and let some guy have it, we're defeating what we got the car for. In this panel right here, there's a left and right to these. But if we didn't see it here and you look at it in the parts book, you really don't know. This is a 440H.
Hardtop.
It's a hardtop, but they made 3 different ones. Now, we got this same piece inside and we haven't been able to figure out what it was. Now, we know that it's one with a vinyl roof. This has got the original Continental kit. There's a lot more to this than what the average person thinks, because you got to know about these splash bands down here. You have to know about them. You have to know about the holder that holds the tire on there. If you don't have the right brackets for it, it don't do no good. This gas cap. This is the original gas cap. It's got an N on it. Now, if we took that gas cap off there and sold it to somebody, what do we know? This has got what they call a twin stick in it. This has got factory air in it. You can look in all the books there is, and they won't tell you, won't describe this car.
It's probably a real 1 in a million car here.
This is a 1964.
Well, the console looks very similar to the 64 440H I had, except I can see the twin
Just
stick was
blanked
put.
out the-
Twin stick.
Yeah.
And see this,
The twin stick, one operates the overdrive, the other one operates the other 3 gears. Kind of a neat little thing.
that's what that's for. See, and that's got factory air in it. Well, this is a 6-cylinder engine with factory air. All right, you got factory air in an 8-cylinder, and it's altogether different. Everything. Here's a football, or basketball rather. See, this is how it was done. These are all parts that this is the start of it. Here's all kinds of manuals and things that you need to do things.
Now, have you got pretty much most of this organized by the computer, or how do
No,
you do it?
No, because part numbers change, things change, and it's too difficult to do that. Most of it comes just from common knowledge. These are mirrors. People can't understand that. See, mirrors weren't something that people wanted on a car. It was put on because the law made you put them on. When people bought a new car, most people can't understand this, but when you sit down at a table and you sit and look at a man across from you, you're talking about buying a car, a mirror was, we'll say, $7 or $8 more. And the first thing that fellow thought about was, if I put that mirror on the car and it gets knocked off, what's going to happen to the door? How much is it going to cost to fix that door? So, if you went ahead and said, boy, you can't live without that mirror, you could very easily lose the sale of the car, and that's what you was interested in. So mirrors, back in the old days, were something that people really didn't want. These are mirrors for old ones. These are really, really difficult because these mirrors were really hard to sell. So the factory never made a lot of them.
I see.
And today everybody wants a couple of mirrors. Well, that's something that's altogether different. We go back to the original theory of how the factory wanted us to do it back when we was a dealer. And they had a system which was very, very good. The parts book has a system. If it's a part for the engine, it's in group 1. If it's a part for the radiator, it's in group 2. If it's a part for the clutch, it's in group 5. So everything kind of goes together. This was a big seller back in the old days. Engine block heater. Today, there ain't many people talk about an engine block heater, but back then that was a big thing. License plate frames. That's the kind of accessories that you had to sell. Our owner's manuals. This is literature. We have literature, but look at here. Look at how all this is. And we use this because we lots of times want to know what moldings was used on a particular car.
Behind you, that we probably got maybe 10,000 taillight lenses in that.
Here, look at here. There's a brand new original hubcap for a 1937. Brand new. See, that's the bag it come in.
When you have an old car, and that first lesson you learn is never to throw anything away. So it's kind of, we're just as strong of believers in that as what the next guy is. Although we probably could fill up quite a few dumpsters full of things in that.
So some of this is stuff that you had when you closed down with AMC.
A very small
some of
portion
your
of this.
stock, and then the rest of it you look for people who had it.
We've probably purchased somewhere between 450 and 500 dealerships in that over the last 15 years in that. So we've done quite a bit of, and there's things that come from, well, I can pretty safely say that there's things that come from all 50 states more or less, because matter of fact in the back we have about 100 radiators that came from Hawaii. So not too many Ramblers in Hawaii and that, and to have 100 radiators
So
that was quite an
there.
unusual thing. So anyway, we've got a pretty good inventory of things from just about every state in the union.
So what's like the hardest thing to come by as far as a general
Actually, the hardest thing in that, surprisingly, are the small parts. Everybody think fenders and things like that are always going to be the most worthwhile, but you know, you can always pound and weld and sand and do whatever on a fender, but it's that little crazy switch that's on the instrument panel that has a little doohickey that goes bad in that there's no way in the world anybody knows how to fix it, and you know what you do? You just take it and you throw it in a trash can. Those are the parts that are always worth the most to us in that in comparison, because they can't be repaired. Whereas all those other things, bumpers can be replated and panels can be repainted and so like that. So it's a very small quantity of them.
I would think that would be a kind of a thing people would be after too, little bits of molding and trim like that.
It surprisingly is, but you know the thing is that actually the molding is not the most valuable part to it. On American motors, they always use little plastic clips to hold the moldings on so that they wouldn't rust.
Okay.
And consequently, it's the little plastic clips today that are actually worth more than the molding, because the molding you can usually stick it back on there, but without the plastic clip, you're kind of out of luck. So the molding with the clip means twice the value to it than what an item that doesn't have that. And like all the hard parts, we've axle shafts and we have brake drums and that, and all these nice heavy things, but obviously those things wear out too, and we try to keep a good stock of those type of items.
These are pretty much a new old stock.
Everything you see in here, probably 99.5% of everything in here is new. We try to avoid used parts because, you know, some used parts, you can look at a fender and you can say, yeah, it's got a hole in it here, but when you have a used switch or you have a used carburetor or something like that, there's not many ways of telling that that's going to be any good until it's actually on a customer's card. And when we send something to someone, we don't want them to call us back in 6 months or 6 days later and say, I put it on the car and now the car doesn't run. We built this building in the back here now. We built this about 3 years ago, and unfortunately, 3 years ago, this was a nice empty building. And now, unfortunately, in 3 years, we've managed to go ahead and stuff it to the rafters, practically, quite literally. You want a bumper in that, I just hope you don't want the one on the bottom, because to unstack that cord of wood of bumpers in that, it does take a little bit of time in that. And those are all brand new bumpers in that. There's no easy way.
If the guy calls you one in a 68
yeah, if you want the
Rebel
68
rear
one.
bumper.
Yeah, it might take you about 2 weeks to get that one. So, you know, you have to unsort all those and that, which is a big problem.
One of the things that's very interesting, I think, is how the factory changed. They were constantly trying to do this to go ahead and make it possible to send these. If you notice the paper, look at how these were wrapped. They used all different kinds of paper. Down here, these is gunny sacks down there.
Oh yeah.
Burlap, gunny sacks. This is meat paper. This is what you wrap meat in.
Craft paper, a lot of times they call it.
They use all these different things in it to go ahead and try to be able to wrap them. And the reason why they wrapped them, because they didn't want any moisture to get on the bumper to have it have any spots. It's right here is a brand new grill. The original box, it's a brand new grill for a 39, which is, you can imagine, 1939.
Jeez.
And here's vacuum leveling tanks. They had that back in the 50s.
When people call you and they want an old part, they have no comprehension of what you have to go through to buy this, because we've probably been in more basements, more attics, and more unusual places than I'd like to think about, and I really don't like doing that, but you have to do it. You have to retrieve these things and that. And you know, you get it back here and that's the easy part, is actually getting it out of where it was. Then the tricky part is to come back here, sort it all out into some logical manner and then be able to tell what you have, and that's the problem that we run into a lot of times, and that it takes longer to sort it out than it will for anything else. And a lot of these things, we will never see the corner of that building in my lifetime, I don't think so.
American Motors used to sell what they called porcelainized pipes. And actually, they came out with a theory and with a design that the was going to guarantee the exhaust system for the life of the car.
Ceramic coating.
Ceramic,
yeah,
right.
okay.
The ceramic,
Well,
the blue ceramic coating, and that sealed out moisture in that, and therefore kept it from rotting out from the outside. But unfortunately, forgot about that they rust from the inside out. So therefore, they did wear out. And up until 1987, American Motors even would sometimes call us that they had a few original customers that actually come in and say, I've got a 1963 in that, and I've got the original exhaust system on it, and I want my free exhaust system in that. And American Motors would go, oh my God, we haven't made that car in 25 years, and they'd call us up and we'd actually send them the original part back to them so that they could keep the customer's warranty in effect. So that was pretty good of them to do that too. So
There's a distributor cap. Use 16 spark plugs. Now, this is the thing about this though. This fits a Nash. This isn't a V16 Cadillac. But Nash had what they call dual ignition. They had an 8-cylinder car, and it had, this was quite an accomplishment. This is made out of metal. See that? This was quite a thing. This has a mattress in it. Now Nash, originally, they was very ahead of a lot of people. Nash had a bed in the car. And they finally come and they had a divided seat, and so you actually had like twin beds. So we sold, from the factory, we sold the mattress. And the mattress is inside here. Now the mattress isn't any good unless you can blow it up. So what happened is, somebody designed this so that this is the pump.
Oh, I see.
This is how you pump the mattress up. When they would, this mustard color back here, and the yellow color, and the blue, they were the original factory colors. And what we would do, we would buy a case of 12 of them, is what they used to come in. And we would buy those 12, well, we'd buy them to get the colors. And then when somebody was looking through the book, trying to figure out what it looked like and everything, because names are very unusual. Hialeah yellow. What is Hialeah yellow? The year 1957, we made a decision. My father and I decided that we would like to be a big new car dealer. So we was selected to be the Edsel dealer in Rock Island County. We had the whole county. And at that time, it was a tremendous honor to be selected to have the franchise. With Nash, we could not keep the Nash franchise. We wanted to. We wanted to move it to another location or put the Edsel in another location, and we couldn't do it. The law was that you had to give up Nash, which we finally decided that's what we'd do. So we became an Edsel dealer, and we had a lot of Edsels. And it was a very trying time. The car didn't sell good. The car wasn't what originally was shown to us. The price of it wasn't right. Everything about it was wrong. Well, needless to say, it was a very big disappointment. But my father and I guess my father's German and I must be, or he was Swiss, and kind of stubborn, I guess. And we stayed right with it. We wound up, we was an Edsel dealer when they quit building them. The fact is, we was the only Edsel dealer they had. We was the last Edsel dealer in the United States. And this is a building that my father rented in 1945. He rented this building and eventually we bought it. It's a 2-story building, got an elevator on the inside. The upstairs was used for heavy repair, and we did do some body work up there. And we had a used car lot that was next door. As you can see, there's a lot of used cars. And we always had a big selection of different kinds of used cars. We had used cars that were high-priced cars. For instance, here's a new Cadillac convertible. And we had this particular picture right here that was taken. On that particular day, we had 6 1966 Chevrolet Super Sport 2-door hardtops with 396 engines in them.
As I mentioned, this segment was videotaped back in 1997 by Joel Yelich. Sadly, Stuart Blaser has passed away in 2001, but his son Steve carries on the business, and Steve told me that since this tape was made, the business has expanded, and they're always happy to meet any of your needs for finding parts for your Nash Rambler AMC car.